Hey, I'm Chef D. Not only do I love serving food, I love being around a table. I love a great conversation, and I love finding out more about people. What makes them who they are? So join me at the kitchen table with me, Chef D. Welcome to At the Kitchen Table with me, Chef D, and a really special guest. And I love this guy from the first time I met him. I'm co-founder of Driverseat, Luke Bazely. Luke, thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks, Chef. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and the feeling's mutual. I've loved you since I met you, and it seems we've got a bit of a history together now.
The one thing that has really piqued my interest, and we both share a little bit of the platform of LinkedIn, and you've been really honest and upfront about work-life balance on LinkedIn. And I know I've commented a couple of times, and I just really love your honesty and trying to figure this out. From one entrepreneur to another, we tend to get wrapped up in this pretty easily, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my leadership style has always been that of what I would refer to as a servant leadership style,
Yep.
and part of that to me is vulnerability and humility, and I try not to ever sort of act as the boss or the manager, and I really act as I like to look at our org chart as being upside down almost. So my job is to be there to service everybody else. And I feel like in order to do that and to do it effectively, vulnerability is key. And so I demonstrate that on LinkedIn, but I also try to demonstrate that around the office and in any of the interactions that I have. Because it's, to me, that's where the magic happens. That's where, people can feel themselves. They can, I've been told that I create a safe environment, for people to feel like they can be themselves, for them to feel like they can say what's on their mind and not feel like there's going to be retribution for that. So yeah, that's really where it comes from, and not getting caught up in the struggles of life and business and the challenges we face as entrepreneurs, but always, but always being open to talking about it with people.
So Driverseat. How did that's how I first got to know you folks, but how'd that start? Like, where did that idea come from?
Well, so Brian, my partner and brother, and I, we were in different stages of life, different careers, and we had been talking about starting something together, and he had been working his way through the franchising system as a franchisee in another brand. And so we were talking about business models and what we would like to do together and what that business should stand for, what the core values should really look like. But we didn't know anything about what the business was going to be. And so taking sort of a backwards approach to it, we said, well, we would like to franchise. That was Brian. Brian really wanted a franchise, and I didn't know much about it, but it seemed really great to me as well. And so we said, yeah, let's create a franchise. And so it's backwards to the degree that most times you build a business that's successful and you repeat it over and over again, and then you franchise it. So yeah, we knew we had all the criteria developed. We knew exactly what the business should stand for and what we wanted out of it. But we developed a list of, 30 plus business models that fit some of the criteria, but not all of them. And we were working our way through this list and trying to figure it out. And one night I'd used a service in Barrie, Ontario, where we started Driverseat, and my wife and I were out for dinner, and we used a service to drive us home in our own vehicle. And as I'm getting the ride home, I'm thinking, holy man, it checks all of the boxes, and it's socially it's a socially responsible service. It contributes to the community, but we can make money at it. And so it hit all of the criteria. And so that kind of started the process with Driverseat, and but of course since then it's morphed and pivoted to something very different as well. So,
and it's funny, you were just talking about how you got the idea and you kind of keep to franchise, is that you want to go over something again and again and again. It's no different than when we're creating a recipe. You know what I mean? Like it's like you go over it and you go over it again and you go over it again and go over it again to make it right, And it's just it's really the parallels there. So, Driverseat, again, from from the humble beginnings, you've just won 2 franchising awards back to back.
We won so there are a couple of designations in the Canadian franchising circle that you have. So in 2019, we won gold in our category, but we also won the grand prize, which was the best non-traditional franchise system in Canada of any size. And non-traditional is a service-based franchise or a business that doesn't have like a bricks and mortar retail play. Mm-hmm. So that was the big award in 2019, and then in 2023 or the conference we just had, we won the gold in our category again. And those awards are great, and we cherish them, and we're very grateful for them. But the one that we're most humbled by is every year now for 7 years, we've received the Franchisee's Choice designation, which means our franchisees do a whole survey about the level of support they get, how engaged they are with the brand, whether the business is successful for them. So they have to answer this pretty significant survey. And if our score is over a certain sort of industry standard, then you get the Franchisee's Choice designation. And we've received that 7 years running now.
Really cool.
And so that's something that we're really super proud of, because it comes directly from the franchise owners and they're the ones that we're here to serve. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So when you were visualizing, you and your brother, to start off with this new gig, as it were, did you see yourselves to be this way, or did you have you done a couple turns? Have you thrown some things at the wall that haven't stuck?
Absolutely. I mean, as with any entrepreneurial journey, right? If it weren't for failure, you wouldn't be anywhere. And we've done we've done some campaigns that fell on their face, and different branding strategies that have not worked. But what's most interesting, I think, that the biggest pivot we made was we started really as a driver for hire service, of what we call a chauffeur service, which was driving the client's cars. It was a very simple business model. That's what we launched. And today, I think we've only got 2 or 3 locations that are still offering those services. The business is basically fully pivoted over to what we call a shuttle service, which is fleet vehicles, charters, tours, that kind of thing. And a big component of that is business to business and business to government contract work that we're doing, whether it be microtransit or employee shuttles or things like that. So that pivot happened, really kind of formally in 2017. We launched in 2012. So we were about halfway through our current tenure when we decided to make that major pivot.
Advice for an entrepreneur just starting out with one idea. If you had to give something, what would you give them?
I think the most prolific piece of advice I could give is good or done is better than perfect. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is you have to do stuff. You have to try things. You have to fail. You have to do them over and over again, much like you talked about with the notion of a recipe, which is such a great parallel to franchising, because we work on what we call a recipe. Mm-hmm. You in any entrepreneurial journey, I think you really have to continue to refine the recipe, and in doing so, you're going to make some stuff that doesn't taste very good. And so,
yep.
People are afraid to fail. They want to make all the right decisions, and then there's a bit too much planning maybe that goes on, or there's too much strategy, and there's too much capitulating. And at the end of the day, you just have to go do the work and try it. And when you do that, you find really quickly what works and what doesn't work. And over the course of time, you're able to then kind of hone in on what it is that you're after. I think it's one of the most important things for entrepreneurs to realize. And then the second piece is know when you've gotten the business to the point where you can't be everything to everyone anymore. Mm-hmm. And it depends on what stage of life they're at. And for example, in the Driverseat world, we're getting to this stage of life where Brian and I are not able to take the business where it needs to go in the way that we've been doing it. We've been what I call shoehorning or crowbarring things through the business over the course of years and making it work because we know how to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. The challenge is when you're building a larger team is that they don't just know how to get stuff done. They have to be told how to do things, what success looks like, what my KPIs are, what are the expectations of me. And in order to do that, the entrepreneur oftentimes has to just get out of the way and allow the team to mature and perhaps even bring in additional leadership into the company that can help create that structure. I see it with so many entrepreneurs that they're successful in spite of themselves.
Yep.
That's what makes us entrepreneurs is we will make stuff happen, right? But
Yep.
at the end of the day, if you want to build a sustainable long-term business, you got to know when to step aside and get out of the way.
You know, we should have been in the same room just a little while ago. I've been thinking about this for ChefD, right? Like it's time now, you know, and we just hired a teaching chef to be part of the team because, like you said, I don't have patience to teach people. You know, I'll get it done. I'll get in early and get out of my way because I'm going to get this done. But if we're going to grow, we're going to need somebody that can teach the young people, even teach the people that are existing in existing roles, and then grow from there, you know? But yeah, such sage advice. And it's not always easy being in your seat and my seat where you want to let go, you know what I mean? Or you trust the people enough. You hire really great people, you trust them, but I don't think deep down, and this is just me talking, is that you always trust them enough because you think you're the only one that can do it, you know?
It may be trust, and it may just be, sometimes it's a matter of you're worried about the potential outcome or fallout. You failed so many times and you know how to recover from it quickly, and you don't want your team to fail.
Yep.
And I mean, I listen, that this is, you and I could circle the wagon on this conversation. I have been around this block so many times where it's like, am I ready to let that go? Every time I tried to let it go, it didn't work. Or every time I tried to delegate. I've got a really, really great resource for you. We've started implementing the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, and it's based on a book called Traction.
Yep.
For a business between $2 and $50 million, that would be, and when you said what's your advice for entrepreneurs, actually, that would be my number one advice, is engage with the system, because it gives you a framework to do exactly what you and I are talking about right now, which is how to elevate, how to delegate, how to create systems, and then how to allow you as the visionary of the business to get out of that day-to-day grind and the doing and the button pushing and lever pulling and be a visionary and really dream about where the business could go, but have a team in place that understand you and understand your vision and can bring it to reality. Because in order to scale, in order to do something bigger than you, bigger than your personality, bigger than just what you could do on your own, you have to have that team in place.
100%.
And it's hard for people in a management role to work with an entrepreneur. It's very difficult, and we need a framework for that.
I'm laughing because I'm sure if you talk to some of my staff, going, "Yep, that's Chef right there." You know what I mean? Yeah. And I just picked up the book Traction and just started reading it. And and then the other one, Good to Be Great.
Good to Great, Jim Collins.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, just again, just taking it to another level. Okay, so we're gonna switch topics just a little bit. Okay, what's your favorite meal?
Oh man. I love cooking, and I love cooking all sorts of different food.
Yep.
And so I have a fair palate, and I have a wide range of food that I absolutely love to eat. But if I were to say one thing, if I go out for dinner, the one thing I actually can't say no to, if there's a really good one on the menu, is a hamburger.
Yes. I'm with you, brother.
I can't. I love curries. I love Middle Eastern food. I love Ethiopian food. I love Indian food. Italian. I love it all. But if there's a solid burger on the menu, I have trouble saying no to it.
Yeah, I hear you. I so hear you. It's like it's my go-to. That and pizza. I love pizza.
Yeah. You can't go wrong. Listen, Brian, the best hamburger I ever had was actually the top two hamburgers I ever had were one day apart in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Had one for lunch on the first day I was there, and the next night for dinner we went somewhere else and I had another burger. They were the number 1 and 2. Of course, they were fresh ground chuck, and I was eating it medium rare to medium done. But the chef made a ketchup leather. Okay. So it was like a fruit roll up style. Yeah. Right, but a homemade ketchup turned into a leather that was on the burger. That was so delicious.
Okay.
Idea for you.
Okay. So again, I'm just going to bring it back just a little bit. Because I love your advice, is for family and the entrepreneur, what would you say to when you're starting out? Like, okay, I have a family. I want to do my own thing. I'm ready. Give us a little bit of heads up. Like, when you went into this, and I know you've dealt with this, is give us some, I don't know if advice is the right word, but maybe your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what I can share most is experience, right? My wife is amazing, and was committed from day one to support me in whatever it is that she thought I wanted to do. And that, so number one is there a conversation that's happening, not just once, but over the course of time, to understand what entrepreneurship looks like for the person that's going to be going through it, but more importantly, for the people that need to support that person, and namely friends, spouse, and kids. Because an entrepreneur can't do it on their own. They need that support network, and they need people to lean on, and people to rally behind them and cheerlead for them and all the things. So that's critical element number one. The second thing is being real at every stage of the game. And it boils back to the first thing we talked about, which was transparency and vulnerability. I had to be vulnerable enough to talk to my wife and say, I'm scared. I'm worried about what's going on. I'm not sure how we're going to pay the bills next month. Whatever was going on, but doing so in a fair context that it wasn't me just dumping it on her and hoping that she was going to hold me up. Right. So it's a bit of an art form, because my wife doesn't understand. She's a nurse practitioner. She's wonderful at what she does. She's a super smart and intelligent person. Doesn't understand business and doesn't want to understand business. Doesn't understand a profit and loss statement or what the cash flows look like in a business. And so when I'm trying to explain to her that, yeah, maybe I'm not getting paid right now, but one day I will. For her, she's taking what I'm saying at face value. And so the second big piece of advice here is don't ever oversell what's happening, because at times I would say, "Hun, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Don't worry. We're going to get there. Money's going to come in. Like we're going to hit it big. We're going to grow." And 10 years later, that never actually, like, it's not to say we haven't grown and haven't been successful, but the big bang never happened.
Yeah. Yes.
And so now she's a little bit, rightfully so, skeptical when I'm excited about a new opportunity coming around, like, wait till you see what happens next.
Yeah.
She's always a little bit skeptical, and that's fair, because perhaps along the journey somewhere I oversold something that never came to fruition. And as entrepreneurs, we're great salespeople, right? We're great at selling our vision. We're great at selling, and we want to do that for our team and for our suppliers and anybody looking at investing in us. But we got to be real with the people who are behind closed doors with us,
100%.
and not ever oversell it. And I think and then for us, when we don't do as much anymore because of the age that our kids are at, but we used to do a date night every Friday night.
Yep.
And so no matter what was going on and no matter how busy I was, we stopped on Friday night, we drank a bottle of wine, and we talked. And we went through, like, what's going on, because she's not involved in it. We talked about what's going on. How can she support me? How can I support her? Am I being the husband I need to be? Am I being the dad that I need to be? Is everything kosher? Is everything cool? And then and that really helped us stay in check over the course of time.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because Trish and I have had these conversations, and when we started out, I remember one of my mentors is Mike Malik. He owned Clintar Partnerships in London and Kitchener. And I said, "Hey, Mike, what's the one thing that you lose more sleep about?" And he goes, "I have to support 365 mortgages." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I have 365 full-time people that all have mortgages, and I got to make sure that money's coming in." And that just really hit home. Like, just like, didn't even think about anything else. Like, that was his one major concern. And it just, again, opened my eyes to the world I was entering, that type of thing. And yes, and Trish will say many times with me, it's like standing on the ledge, getting ready to jump, and what are we going into next? That type of thing. Okay. So looking forward not that we have any crystal balls or anything, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Yeah, great question. We're doing some restructuring and realignment right now, heavily based on the traction process, the EOS process. We've leaned out and we're filling really key positions with, and we're looking for really key people, and that's all in preparation for some pretty significant growth in the US. So yeah, I think the business is going to really flourish over the course of the next 5 years. I think we're going to add a lot of franchise partners, generate a lot of cash flow, and most importantly, the franchise partners that we have are a lot of them are making great money. They're growing. They're taking more vacations. They're buying new houses. They're doing all the things that we want for them. So, I would see that the business will go that direction. And as a result of that, I will probably play less of a day-to-day, like, active leadership role. I'm going to be really, and again, using terms that come from Traction, if I'm the visionary of the business, thinking like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, what it's going to look like, I want to spend a lot more time thinking about that and looking at larger relationships, like more significant relationships on a business to business side, both in Canada and the US. So larger contracts, really focusing in on some of that stuff. And really all just with a goal to make Driverseat an absolute juggernaut in the transportation space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So really, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's truly not big enough, is it?
Absolutely. That's right.
We're getting close to the end of the time, but I just want to say thank you. Again, some really good little nuggets of wisdom here. And, I wish you and your brother and the whole team, you guys give back so much back to the community, and you're a great influence. So thank you for coming on my little podcast here.
Oh man, it's mutual. I got a lot of respect for you, and I look forward to catching up on some of this outside of the podcast. Let's get some food together and have a beer.
I would like that. So brother, have a good rest of the day. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll talk sooner than later. Okay.
Cheers, Chef. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Bye.